I remember. After he died, you didn't have to leave.
Hi guys, and welcome to Retro Avant-Garde Film Festival. Hello to all the filmmakers and our audience. Today we have great guests, winners of the Retro Avant-Garde Film Festival, the director of the film Celeste, Ben Hackworth, and the Best Actress winner, Radha Mitchell. Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us for the conversation.
Thank you.
Here.
It is
An honor to have this award.
Yeah, right? It's possible only because of this, right? That we could all meet all around the world.
It's true.
Beautiful, beautiful film.
Oh.
I wanted to ask you, Ben, about the location. Where did you find such a beautiful location?
Well, the location, I was doing a bit of a road trip in North Queensland. I'd spent some time there as a kid, but I'd never spent a long time up there. And I was told by a friend from Townsville to go and look at this very strange architectural folly that was built in the 1930s by a Spanish man for his wife. He kind of made it all out of clay with his own hands. And just when he finished this incredible park, he died of a heart attack. And his wife was left kind of living here. And she lived there through floods and fires, and the family stayed on until the 70s. And it's kind of like it was handed down through the family, kind of this idea of this like thwarted, like broken love. And he was also a bit of a Lothario, the man who, you know, he's kind of, he loved women, so he was having his affairs on the side, but he really loved this woman. And yeah, this story kind of, it was interesting to me for a number of reasons. I guess, you know, the location was spectacular, and it almost felt like a kind of, it almost felt like a fairy tale, like that there was an allegorical quality to the real life story. And I think at the same time, I was kind of aware that there was an actress that lived not far from there, and she had kind of, in a way, she'd gone in exile from her acting career. And Diane Salento, her name was, and she was Sean Connery's wife, and then later Anthony Schaefer's wife, sorry. And he died, and she was left there with this kind of incredible commune. So I kind of fused a few story ideas together, and I guess, you know, I just found the location first, and it kind of spoke to me of so many stories. And yeah, that's kind of the story of how I found it. The script happened afterwards. So
it's beautiful. The location inspired the movie.
Yeah,
I have to shoot it here.
It was almost like it was like a haunted place that was calling for a story. And you know, I didn't want to make a historical film. I wanted to make something that's kind of in contemporary times. And you know, and the ruins as a kind of legacy sort of felt, you know, as something that's kind of handed down through a family lineage, kind of felt kind of interesting and beautiful.
Did you stay on the location, or you traveled back to some other camp?
We probably stayed about 20 minutes away from that location. And some of the stuff, obviously, what was shot, you know, within a 30-minute radius of the area. But the area is kind of really fascinating. It's very multicultural. So you have a lot of Spanish and Maltese and Italian immigrants. And there's also kind of a big hippie community. So like the culture you see in the film, like, although it doesn't feel typically Australian, it is very true of that particular area of Australia. And so I think I was kind of looking to kind of show that a little bit, you know, show that kind of I hate that word, quirkiness, but, you know, that eccentricity of living in that kind of jungle, rural environment of Australia. Yeah.
That's great. Radha, how was it for you to film in this location? Did you know about that? First it was location, then this story, and how it is for you in general to film in Australia, since I know you have been traveling all around the world?
Well, similar in the same way. I mean, I read the script and thought, wow, it's such a beautiful, beautiful piece of writing and a very unique kind of portrayal of a woman. You don't see these kinds of scripts very often. So I responded to that, but also the idea of going into this jungle and to be immersed in green was like really what got me too. And it's interesting that it was the location that inspired Ben, and also this imagined idea of going to that location was inspiring to me too. You know, living in Los Angeles, to be able to essentially return home and work on a piece of filmmaking that, you know, had all intentions to be like, you know, a little artistic gem, with really good sort of just really lovely people associated to it with this very kind of pure intent. So that was attractive to me. But certainly the idea of being just like in green and breathing oxygen.
How long did it take to do the film?
I think it took 4 weeks. Did it, Ben? I don't know.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
Pretty quick, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty quick. I'm Australian films kind of, I guess they range from 20 days to 6 weeks. Some 6 weeks, some shoots, but some are a bit longer maybe. But
we had a little bit of a rehearsal period, which was nice, and then we kind of just got into that location, and I don't think we left the location, did we? I didn't leave the location. Whenever I was shooting, I was
stayed a bit longer.
Yeah, I would have liked to stay there, but there was a lot of mosquitoes at night, I heard. Just so you know, and there was also crocodiles swimming in that lake thing, supposedly.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was far north Queensland, there's like really massive insects, and there's crocodiles. So new things that you don't normally have to deal with were part of our reality.
It's true.
Yeah, when you watch, it's just so beautiful. You don't think about this. You know how big it was for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. You don't kind of the visual doesn't capture the kind of the intense, because it is very green, as you said, Radha, and there's certainly a lot of oxygen. But when you're there, we were shooting in was it November? It is incredibly humid. So you basically walk a meter and suddenly you're dripping. You know, it's like 98% humidity, 30 degrees. Your brain gets a little bit soft, like you're a bit like. So there's the challenge of that. It's kind of nice. You have to do everything at slow pace.
Yeah.
It's like
we just inspired everybody to go visit this place.
I know. I think we needed maybe 3 months to shoot there, so we could do it at the right pace. But,
it really is.
I
enjoyed having this sort of brain numb sort of feeling, because my brain gets a bit sort of. So it was nice to just have this heat kind of like frying.
True.
And I think it was good. Yeah, it sort of gave a real sense of things do slow down when you live there. And I think for the characters too, they're really kind of in their own time framework, going against or without any respect to anybody else's time framework.
I was going to ask you, Radha, how was it for you to work on the character and then conditions, and what was your favorite part you loved about this character? It's a female driven.
Yeah, I mean, I loved that she was like a sort of complicated, sort of broken, but very confused, but ultimately very clear character who had a very clear sense of how she wanted to spend her time on Earth. And I think a lot of us, you know, bumble through. And she may have bumbled through for long enough, but now she sort of knows exactly what she wants to do, and we're going to find out what that is. And for me, really what was most interesting about the movie was the sort of final part of the story where not even so much the conclusion of the relationship or this heightened artistic moment, but just this letting go and moving into the next dimension. And I just haven't seen a lot of that in cinema. I haven't seen it depicted as anything other than a tragedy, or, you know, this was actually an experience she chose. So I felt that was really interesting, and very interesting as an actress to explore it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Ben, how was it for you? What was challenges for you to work on the script, to work in this environment?
Well, I had a wonderful time working with Radha. It was just like it was effortless from the beginning, and she's incredibly generous as an actor and brave as well. The crocodiles being in the lagoon, the potential of crocodiles being in the lagoon is just one aspect of her bravery. She's like, I'll do it. They're not big ones. I'll do it. And I felt so bad. I got in the water too, but just to kind of shit. But like you really just kind of committed. You weren't afraid of the fish. You gave yourself to all the scenes. And so I think for me that the best part of the process was working with the actors. I mean, again, working with Odessa and Tom. Like we really had a lovely kind of open exploration. And I think, like we talked about just before with the weather, it meant that we had to kind of adapt a lot of the things in the script because the script was a little more neurotic. And once we got there to the weather, it was like some of it didn't quite suit the pace of the place, if that makes sense. You're writing the script in Melbourne or Brisbane where it's a little bit cooler and you're kind of drinking coffee and and then they're up there and you're like, oh no, I can't be bothered. You got to be true to the character. And so I think we did improvise a bit, and we did allow for things to be stripped back. I think things that were maybe a little bit kind of bigger or just more neurotic, but still there's all the emotions there, and certainly what I enjoyed about writing the character of Celeste was that and I worked on it with Billy for a number of years before he passed away, my co-writer, but then continued. But just the kind of journey, as Radha said, into somebody that is incredibly clear in intention at this point in her life anyway. And yet the emotions that flood her make her seem capricious and mercurial and kind of sometimes egocentric to the audience. But actually in her heart, it's a very clear 2 or 3 week passage in the film.
The music critic Thierry Bernal described you as one of Australia's most promising young sopranos, and then you gave it up right at your peak. Any regrets?
In a way, she strips her ego in such a way that I found that really, like, rather than being a drama, I found it like a spiritual kind of poem or something, like a spiritual journey. And so, yeah, that for me, that was the fun part to write, and the challenge not to kind of over dramatize things in the script was something that I always, kind of had to pull back from that instinct, for the sake of, more drama in the story. Yeah.
Did you change some of the scenes or delete it or rewrote while you were like, that doesn't fit the scene and you just deleted them?
No, we just played. We kind of like jazz. We kind of riffed with what we had. Yeah. We riffed with what we had in certain scenes. Yeah. It felt like Ben was curious about the scenes rather than totalitarian about them. So we were in the scenes and we might try something and then, he would say, no, yeah, so there was a little bit of improvisation, but the scenes were still pretty much the scenes. We didn't change the scenes, did we? No, I don't think so.
Rather, do you like when the director allows you all the freedom to improvise and like give you ideas and suggestions, or you like more just this way?
Yeah, I think everyone does, right? Everybody wants to feel like they're creating in the moment. Certainly, with respect to the vision, nobody wants to be floundering about what they're doing. But there's so much magic that comes when you have with 50 people in the room, each focused on whatever their, task is. And if it is like jazz, where there is that sort of like flow to it, then I think that's the magic of acting, or the magic of directing as well, I presume, is like watching this thing come to life. Yeah, I personally get very about how I want to do things, but that's generally before, and then afterwards in the scene you kind of let that go. Ideally, if you're letting that go and you're surprised by what's happening, you feel like there's a magic to it.
Yeah. Radha, I wanted to ask you a question. to have all the freedom with the director, but what do you love from the scene partner? What makes the best?
The acting partner?
The actor?
Just somebody who's highly intelligent. No, I'm serious. Very intuitive. I mean, you want somebody who's going to raise your own game. Collaborative, ultimately. Somebody who realizes it's a shared scene. There's a collaboration there. And generous, I guess. You want to feel like everybody is being generous energetically with each other.
Have you experienced when you did not like what the other actor was doing? Like, what do you? You're like, you can't really say, right?
You've worked with a lot of actors. No names are to be given.
And you're like, go complain to the director.
Some of the best actors are not the nicest people, but you can forgive that too, I guess, if you're doing something that works. And it's pretty difficult. You know, some of these macho guys, I think, have been sort of difficult to work with, but I can sort of respect that in a way. Like, it's not that easy to be a macho guy. And it's not that easy to navigate around it either, but there seems to be so much demand for it. So if they're able to do it, I guess, you know, good on them, you know, it's hard to do.
Oh, I really understand. Ben, I wanted also to ask you about the movies that you get influenced by. What's your favorite?
Oh, wow.
Films that affected you in the past and you're like,
oh, okay. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I love all kinds of movies. Yeah, you give me a country, I could tell you the 20 directors I love. Like, I'm really into cinema. But I think in terms of this film, and it's interesting, I look at it now and I kind of go, oh, sometimes I look at the influence in Celeste and I go, it does feel very like it's from another decade, like from the 70s. And I think it's because, or 60s. I think it's because, I guess for this film, I really wanted to give it that sort of timeless quality. And so I kind of, in some ways, I kind of just reveled in the cinema of like Fellini and like Antonioni and Bergman and, you know, and then even like the more sensual cinema like Gus Van Sant and Jane Camp, like, you know, that sort of stuff is really in the world of Celeste in a way, but it's my own voice. But I didn't want to make it fashionable, if that makes sense. And so I didn't want to make it of the time with this like edgy kind of quality. I just kind of wanted to make something very like, I didn't want to draw attention to the style in a way, if that makes sense. I wanted to be very kind of clean and simple with it. You know, the next film I think is going to be quite different, like, because I don't want to repeat that same, you know, way. Like, and my first feature was very different again. It was almost more Asian, like very pared back. But yeah, I think it depends on the story, and you know, I think you got to find a style that suits your intention, I guess.
your next film?
But I love cinema. So, well, I'm actually working on one with Radha. It was producing as well, and it's the same producer of Celeste as well, Lizette, and an interesting screenwriter, Vivian Walsh. And it's been a long journey. It's been about a year, a long journey so far, working on the story. But it's actually been, I mean, Lizette and I think Radha hasn't read it, but I think we're getting there. It's really good, this new thing. So yeah, so it's exciting. I mean, it's such a different type of character. It's in a much more violent world and a much more kind of visceral world than Celeste. So it's kind of it's going to be a new adventure for us, yeah. But I'm working on a few other projects as well, including a documentary, and yeah. So
I think it's wonderful. You worked on one project, you loved it, you did a great movie, and then you're continuing and making the next film together. That's so beautiful. Yeah. I'm so excited to watch it in the future. Radha, and I have last questions for you, and I'm going to wrap it up. What makes you say yes to a project?
It wasn't perfect, Jack, but he loved us, and he didn't run when things got tough.
Well, I mean, it's firstly script, you know, story is not even character, just story. Is this story unique? Is it, you know, ideally, is it beautiful? Or is there something that's adding to, if it's a genre piece, adding to the genre? or if it's somehow does it extend the conversation. And then, yes, the location, but who else is involved? You know,
Yeah.
are they people you want to spend the time with? Is their talent kind of, do you respect what they do? I guess those are the primary things, and then character, But yeah, I mean, character is obviously ultimately what you're left with. What can you do with it? But it's so collaborative that it doesn't really matter if you don't have a team of people that can bring the thing to life. And if the story itself is something you don't agree with on some level, you don't really want to do it, you know. So certainly story is significant, and strangely, lastly, character.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know. What is your favorite genre of the stories, would you say? Or you don't have, you like?
Oh, well, I don't really have. I've done a lot of like horror thrillers, it turns out, and like dramas. I mean, and a few comedies. I mean, comedies is a bit scary for me, but it's fun, you know, to be on a set where, you know, it has to be fun and everyone has to have fun, and that's kind of the objective. Yeah, that's a really nice sort of space to be in. But I think if you could call it a genre, I think the space that's really nice to inhabit is to be with artists, I guess. I don't know if that's a genre, but to be in an environment where the intention isn't so much commercial, but something soulful or spiritual, or something where there's a kind of a real kind of connection to core, I guess.
Well, if it isn't a genre, it should be.
I love that. Core genre. Core art genre.
The truth and the connection. Oh,
Okay.
really beautiful. I so enjoyed, guys. Thank you so much for your interview and for being here with us tonight. And I'm looking forward to your future films.
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you. So great.
Meet you. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Day you called, the sun was big enough.
How long's he staying?
He needs to be here.
So, we don't know everything about him.
My fingers tied, cold inside, and every
You're so beautiful. I've never met anyone like you before.
every song I play.
Go, get out! Come on! You got to show up here and take over. I think you should pack your bags. So close now. Only 2 days to go.
Be great on stage, huh?
Yeah, I can fan you with it.